Why is it that every time you try to stand your ground and argue your case, the tears fall before the words even come out? You clearly have all the logic and reasoning perfectly lined up. Every single word calculated 1,000,000 times in your head. Yet, in the eyes of others, you just become someone who is emotionally out of control, someone who is fragile. You are not afraid, and you are definitely not playing the victim. You are just desperately trying to suppress that part of you that desperately wants to explain but is absolutely terrified of saying the wrong thing. Whenever there is a conflict, even if someone just slightly raises their voice or says something mildly critical, your tears immediately start welling up. You bite your lips so hard, screaming at yourself internally, "Please don't cry." But that indescribable sense of grievance and the extreme panic over the conflict drown you like an uncontrollable tidal wave. Actually, a lot of times when you break down, it is not even because of the immediate sadness of the argument. Sometimes, it is a sudden, unexpected word of comfort from someone, or a gentle look acting as the final straw. Just a light touch is enough to completely crush the strong facade you have been exhaustingly holding up all day. Do you find yourself hating this version of yourself more and more? After every argument, while the other person might just move on and forget about it, you are left wide awake late at night, agonizing over a painful mental replay. You rewind every single word spoken, analyzing their every look, obsessing over even the smallest pause in the conversation. You are constantly blaming yourself, feeling like you have ruined everything once again. But is that really the truth? Does this uncontrollable physical reaction of crying truly mean you are weak? Actually, this reaction of crying, the moment an argument starts, is often categorized in psychology as a physiological manifestation of high sensitivity and people-pleasing traits. You never easily lose your temper, not because you don't have one, but because you know all too well that once emotions spiral out of control, the relationships you cherish might become irreparably damaged. It is not that you do not know how to fight back. You simply cannot bear to hurt others. Even when the other person has deeply wounded you, your subconscious is still being considerate of them. In behavioral psychology, when facing conflict and threat, aside from the well-known fight, flight, or freeze responses, there is actually a fourth trauma response called Fawn. Your tears are, in fact, an involuntary physiological defense mechanism triggered by your brain when it detects an interpersonal crisis aimed at disarming the other person and de-escalating the conflict. Your subconscious is pleading for peace on your behalf, trying to use tears to tell them, "I'm no longer a threat. Please do not hurt me anymore, and please do not leave me." This heavy, profound gentleness and kindness goes completely unnoticed by the vast majority of people. They only judge you from a high horse, calling you overly sensitive, saying that all you do is cry whenever something happens. Yet, no one has ever stopped to ask you how long you silently endured and how much grievance you swallowed down before those tears finally broke through. So, why did you become like this? In psychology, this highly sensitive trait is never a disease, nor does it mean there is something wrong with you. It often means that you possess an incredibly perceptive heart. You are not overly emotional. Rather, your capacity for empathy is extremely strong, and you feel things too deeply. Tracing it back to its root cause, the answer might be hidden in your childhood. Perhaps, from a young age, you lived in an environment of conditional love. For instance, you only deserved a word of praise from adults when you scored well on exams. You only felt you had the right to be loved when you were absolutely obedient and well-behaved. Other people's childhoods were filled with acting spoiled, making a fuss, and having someone to coax them even when they were crying and rolling on the floor. But your childhood was branded with the label of being mature far too early. Your daily life consisted of endurance, walking on eggshells, and trying with all your might never to disappoint the adults around you. From a young age, you were forced to learn how to read the room, got used to pleasing others, and only allowed yourself to slightly relax your tense nerves when others were happy. You didn't dare to express your true emotions at all, because the younger you had already cruelly understood a reality. You would only be liked if you performed well enough. And so, this deep-seated fear grew up with you. Now, whenever an argument occurs, your first reaction is never to figure out, am I right or wrong, but rather to subconsciously fall into extreme panic, desperately reflecting on, did I do something not good enough again? You want to be a good person so badly, that even when you suffer immense grievances and are so sad you're about to shatter, you don't dare let anyone know. But you have forgotten that the person in this world who most deserves your protection is actually yourself. So, what exactly should we do to break free from this internal friction and truly heal? The first step is not forcing yourself to be strong, but genuinely allowing yourself to be vulnerable. You need to understand that tears are never a sign of weakness to others. They are an outlet for your emotions, a self-rescue after repressing them for far too long. The second step is learning to pause. The next time an argument happens, seriously ask yourself, are you mutually maintaining this relationship, or are you just one-sidedly compromising yourself? This world is not worth you constantly suppressing your emotions and sacrificing yourself in exchange for so-called peace. You are allowed to be unhappy. You are allowed to refuse. And you are allowed to loudly say, I don't like this. This is not being willful, nor is it being cold. This is you beginning to learn how to set your own boundaries. You must know that not everyone is worth you repeatedly bowing your head and pleasing them. You no longer need to force yourself to understand everyone else. You just need to start trying to deeply understand yourself. To take care of the you who is always silently suppressing emotions and carrying the weight for others. The final step is to practice every single day, accepting that version of yourself who cries easily and overthinks. You have to realize that all your sensitivity, your delicacy, your emotional overflows, none of these are flaws. They are simply another shape of the kindness, sincerity, and deep affection hidden in your soul. True strength has never been about becoming cold and invulnerable. It is about living with gentleness while finally growing the thorns to protect yourself. So, my dear, starting from now, stop apologizing for your sensitivity. You have already exhausted yourself maintaining too many relationships. Now, it is time to save a little strength for yourself. You can cry, but after crying, do not forget to comfort that deeply aggrieved self. True gentleness is not about never breaking down, but about still being willing to reach out and gently hold yourself after every emotional flood. You do not need to become who anyone expects you to be. You just need to slowly grow into an adult who can steadily catch yourself.